We're gonna go ahead and get started now. Um, okay. So hi everybody, I'm Aya. I am a current junior here at Let's Get Ready. I work as a facilitator. We basically host these workshops throughout the year for different topics. And so here's a little bit about me. I'm a third year at the University of Rochester, and I'm dual enrolled in the Eastman School of Music. I am a political science major and a guitar performance dual degree student on the pre-law track. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and my favorite thing about college is probably getting to meet super cool faculty that have already done such cool things in their fields. And it's really nice to have easy access to them. And I'm also in a sorority, which has been super fun, not only socially, but also professionally and getting to build like career networking skills. I also love music. My current favorite artist is The Weeknd, and there's my Calendly link. So if you ever have any questions about anything we discussed in workshops or need any help with like personal statement brainstorming or just any help with like college supplementals, feel free to schedule an appointment with me. But yeah, let's get into it. So today's workshop is all about junior year, why it's important, and three things we could be doing to leverage it now. So here's the overview for today. So I just introduced myself. My name is Aya. You guys might see someone put links in the chat. That is our moderator, Amanda. She just put the Calendly link in the chat. So throughout the whole workshop, there will be um a bunch of interactive stuff for you guys to do. So just keep an eye out on the chat and look for those important links. So yeah, let's look at what we're going to be talking about today. So first, we're going to start off with why junior year is important. After that, we're going to be talking about three things to focus on right now to strengthen your applications. And those three things are going to be extracurriculars, recommendation letters, and then the third thing will be the SAT and ACT and whether or not you should take them. And if so, which one should you take? And then we're going to end it off with some goal setting, and then that's it. So, the main goal for today is to just talk about how you can take as much advantage of your junior year as possible to decrease your stress before going into college application season next fall. So, we do have a $10 raffle of the day, and the way that you are able to participate in the raffle is just by keeping your camera on. So if no one else turns their camera on, it's guaranteed $10, just saying. So yeah, if that is something that interests you, keep your camera on. We also have a grand prize raffle. So for each workshop you attend, you are entered into a big raffle with three prizes. So we're going to give away $25 and then $50 and then $100. And you guys have already earned one ticket by being here today. So good job, keep it up. Okay, so let's just get straight into it. Why is junior year important? So to start off the workshop, we're just going to be talking about why junior year important, why junior year is important, and what college admissions teams are looking for in their applicants, and how you can make the most out of junior year to make your application sign. So, raise your hand if you've ever heard this statement before. Junior year is the most important year of high school. Yeah, I see some hands raised. I definitely heard that a lot as a high school junior. And it's because you're at the point in your high school career where you still are a full-time high school student, but you also have to start thinking about what life after high school looks like, whether that's building college list, starting to apply for colleges or looking at jobs. Definitely is a big transition period, so it's not a shock that you guys will hear that. So specifically for college applications, junior year can be the most important year, and here are just some of the reasons why. So, one, you still have the time to build real relationships with your recommenders. Two, it's the best time for you to take and retake the SAT or ACT. Three, you probably won't have any grades for your senior year by the time you apply to colleges. So the admissions counselors are going to be looking at your grades from freshman year all the way to your junior year. And it's your last chance to really show upwards trajectory. Admissions counselors obviously understand that you're probably not going to have straight A's every semester, but what they do like to see is academic improvement. So if you utilize the last semester or quarter or whatever you use for your school to just get your GPA raised a bit, that would be a wonderful opportunity for you to do so. And finally, it's the last real chance for you to add extracurriculars. Sometimes when you wait until your senior year, it can look like you're just putting extracurriculars on your resume just to do it instead of actually being interested. So here are just some of the reasons why it's important. But also, junior year is a great time to reflect on what you want for yourself in a college experience and decide what aspects of who you are and your story you want to share with the admissions team. So, a big part of the college application journey is that it's very individualized. There's almost never a time where the admissions officers are reading two of the same exact application. Your application is true to yourself, which is why it's super important to create a strong but also a unique profile for college admissions. Which brings us to our next point. What do college admissions teams actually care about? So, obviously, I can't lie and say that they don't care about your grades, but they also do care about things like your leadership, responsibilities, your wins, your involvements, and your character. So, if you are in a club or you've started a club at your school or have done research with one of your teachers, that's definitely something they care about. Another thing that I want to highlight, responsibility. It doesn't always have to look very traditional. I remember I put on my college applications that I would help my siblings out with homework after school and help my father out with doing some paperwork for him. So they tend to look at your application holistically. So what that means is that they do care about your grades, but they also really do care about your value as a person and just all of the other involvements you've been in. So here are just some of the ways that just some of the things that they also care about. Here's a few helpful reminders. You don't need to be everything they're looking for. As long as you know your own strengths, I think that's the most important thing. Knowing your own strengths and making them shine really does come through in a college application. So don't try to be someone you aren't, just be yourself. That's all they want to see. This year you do have time to work on some of the things that are going to make a good impression. So like I said before, getting your grade up for this last semester of junior year, speaking to your recommenders and getting to know them a little more so they have actual good things to point out in your letters of recommendation. And finally, you could even get a leadership position in a club, whatever it may be. Just something that's important to realize is that there are colleges for everybody. Not all colleges are going to have like 13% acceptance rates. Like, no matter where you are, I think if you want to go to a college and you've completed your graduation requirements, I'm more than certain that you are able to get into a college. And final thing to remember is that no matter where you go, your degree is going to have value. I know a lot of the time people spend a lot of time hyperfixating on like Ivy League schools and like top 14, top 50 schools. And while it's true that those schools are really good schools and they can be helpful, at the end of the day, after you graduate, an employer is going to care more that you have a degree rather than where you got your degree from. So that's just something to keep in mind. So without further ado, let's get into 3 things to leverage right now. Junior year is the year to start gathering the ingredients to make your profile pop. So we're going to be talking about the 3 things you can do now. And if you focus all of your attention on it this year, it's going to strengthen your profile and it'll decrease your stress a lot when you apply in the fall. It can get really stressful trying to get all of these things together in the fall when you're on a time crunch. So if you start doing it now, you're going to thank yourself later. So the 3 things are extracurriculars, recommendation letters, and then the SAT/ACT. And the last one is starred because a lot of colleges are currently evolving with their requirements for standardized testing. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. So first of all, extracurricular. As we talked about already, junior year is kind of the last chance you have to add to your extracurriculars, and we're going to be talking about how you might want to do that in this section. So before we do that, first of all, we want to ask what counts as an extracurricular. So feel free to chat in or come off mute and give some ideas of what could be an extracurricular. Clubs or sports is one, yeah, definitely. Hospital volunteering. What kind of clubs do your schools have? Pre-med club, yeah. Yeah, so you guys pretty much nailed it. extracurricular activities can be a lot of different things. I think the best way to put it is anything that you're doing outside of class. So, what that could look like after school clubs and sports, you guys already named that. Non-school affiliate activity, community service and activism. So, hospital volunteer work, also maybe volunteering at like your local food pantry or animal shelter. That could be another thing. And then also work, family responsibilities, personal projects, and self-guided stuff. These are the more less traditional ones, but they're still super, super important. And it is a time commitment that you are putting in. So don't be afraid to put any of those on your college applications. And on top of this, um, you get extra points. It looks extra good if you are taking leadership positions within the club. So if the clubs have like a president position, vice president, business manager, representative, that could be super helpful to take advantage of. It looks super good when you've done something for a while. So let's say you join the club freshman year and you've stuck with it through freshman to junior year. That looks super good. And also taking initiative is something that looks really good as well, whether that's starting a club, creating a business, maybe planning a talk in your school for other students. Taking initiative is something that colleges love to see. So just keep that in mind. Um, so before we talk about how you can improve extracurriculars, let's talk about what's already true about your extracurriculars. So many of you guys have probably already got sent the brag sheets from your coaches. I just hope you guys took the chance to fill them out to see that you do have important strengths already. There are things that are making you unique. Your extracurriculars are valued, your life experiences are valued, and you are already good enough. The goal of the brag sheet was to help you to start to think about the experiences that you've already have and the strengths that you have. And it's going to help you consider your current extracurricular involvements and how you can improve those. So if you haven't done that already, Amanda just put it in the chat. Feel free to go look at it. It could be super helpful. And it'll also come in handy when you're asking for letters of recommendation too, which we'll get into shortly. But yeah, so how do you know if you're doing enough extracurriculars? So there is no perfect number of extracurriculars you should be doing. Enough isn't a number, but something that is true is that you should be doing extracurriculars that are meaningful for you and not just adding extracurriculars because you think it's going to look good on your college application. You should do something because you're interested in it, not because you think it's what a college is going to like. Um, so if you feel like you already have a bunch of extracurriculars, you probably are already doing enough. If anything, it might be a smart move to deepen those extracurriculars instead of adding new ones. And how you might be able to do that is taking on a leadership role. So again, all those positions I spoke about, president, vice president, secretary, whatever it may be. Also taking initiative, leadership by action. So maybe it could be starting a new event that your club has, or maybe doing a fundraiser, whatever it may be. Also, completing an independent project within the club could be something really cool. And then doing something over the summer is also really helpful. So if you have a free summer, maybe look into getting a summer job or being able to volunteer. That could be super helpful. And if any of this means taking a step back from other extracurriculars, that is okay. Colleges love to see quality over quantity. So if you're doing something super meaningful in an extracurricular, they tend to value that more as opposed to doing 10 extracurriculars that you're only spending maybe a couple minutes on or an hour on every week. So yeah, definitely take some time to consider where you might be able to go deeper into your already existing extracurriculars. If you're on the other side of this, don't worry. You still have time to add a few extracurriculars. Consider adding things that you feel are showing your passions, your personality, or your academic interests. Colleges want to get a sense of who you are. They don't want you to be a specific kind of person. They honestly just want to be you. Something that I did, like I was a part of my school skateboarding club. Um, and I know a lot of my friends were interested in like science clubs. And while the science club sounded cool, it didn't necessarily align with my academic interests or just my own passions at the time. So I still went ahead and was involved in the skateboarding club. So don't stress out too much about being involved in all the fancy extracurriculars. Honestly, just do what you like. And then once you're able to do that, go back and think about how you can deepen that extracurricular, and it'd be super helpful for you. You guys are all unique, So it's just important to stay true to yourself. We have a list of extracurriculars that you guys are able to consider to help you brainstorm what you might want to do. So we're going to go into our first activity. You guys have two options for this. Option one is identify an extracurricular where you think you can go deeper. And if you feel like you don't have enough, take some time to brainstorm an extracurricular you might want to add. Yeah. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to do that. This is a personal exercise, so you don't have to share anything, but it's good to start thinking about it now. Okay, so that was about 4 minutes. So I hope you guys were able to take the time to brainstorm something. If you have any questions or needed any help at all, feel free to reach out to your coaches or use my Calendly link and schedule a meeting. We could talk a little bit more one-on-one about extracurriculars if you do feel a little stuck on this. So we are going to be going into a 5-minute break now. And when we come back from break, we're going to be talking about the second most important thing to focus on this year, which is your recommendation letters. As a reminder, we still do have our raffle going on. It's not too late to join. So if you want to turn your camera on, 10 free dollars. Okay. So second most important thing to do in your junior year. So most colleges and universities are going to ask students and applicants to have letters written from adults in their lives, and your college counselors are also going to have to submit a letter on your behalf. So I'm sure you guys probably know a little bit about this, but we're going to be going in depth about what this process entails and how you can get a really strong recommendation letter. Okay. So, strong recommendation letters. Strong recommendation letters speak to your academic and your personal strengths. They show who you are as a person, and then they also show real life examples of your character. And what the last bullet point means is that they're able to point out to something specific that you might have done in class or in a club that has shown who you are as a person and your determination or growth. So that could look like speaking to choose on behalf of your group or improving your grade, just something that your recommenders are able to specifically point to. So who do you guys think are types of people that you can ask for a recommendation letter? So you guys have gotten great answers. I will say teachers are the most important that you can ask for a recommender since they're most directly connected to you as a student. Your guidance and slash college counselor is going to have to write one for you. And then your coaches could write one for you as like a secondary letter of recommendation. I remember when I applied to the University of Rochester, I had to have two academic letter recommendations, my guidance counselor recommendation, but there was also an option for like community recommendations where I was able to have either like family members or past employers or just anybody in my life that I thought could speak to my growth as a person. They were also able to submit a letter on my behalf. So we're going to be talking about how we can get strong letters of recommendation and what a good recommender might look like. So we have another activity. We're going to be going into Padlet and we're going to be answering this question. So what connections, both in and outside of the classroom, might make a teacher excited to write a letter of recommendation for a student? So you guys are going to click onto the Padlet link that was on the chat. And once you've clicked onto it, you're going to click this little plus button on the side of the screen and then just type in your answer. And yeah, we'll spend some time reviewing answers and talking about how you might be able to get a really good letter of rec. Okay, so we see be able to work with other students efficiently, showing interest and self-study in the subject the teacher is in, asking for help in advance, and actively participating in class. Yeah, these are all super good things. You want to be as engaged as possible with the teacher that you are going to be asking for a letter of recommendation. Definitely make some time to put effort into the class, whether that is asking for help after class, communicating in advance if you ever need like a extension, or making sure you're on time to their class is a big thing. I think it shows that you respect the teacher's time. Teachers might not be compelled to write a letter of recommendation if you're always coming in like 15 minutes late to their class. So definitely do try your best to show up to class and be an active participant in class. If you can find the time to like maybe get to know the teacher outside of class, whether that's attending their office hours or asking about a subject they teach, that's something that's super helpful. So yeah, really great answers. The overarching goal is just to make sure you get to show the teacher that you're putting in effort. So whatever you can do to show the teacher that you do care and are engaged with class material will be super helpful for you. So thank you guys for participating in that. Um, for the next section, we're going to be talking about a what's what of recommendation letters and what you guys should be looking for in a recommender. So first of all, you want to look for teachers of different subjects, so STEM, humanities, sports, etc. One of the biggest things is that if you are applying to a college as a, say, biology major, you might tend to think that it's a smart choice to just ask for letters of recommendations from STEM teachers. And while it is really helpful to have a teacher in your prospective field write a letter for you, you also want to show colleges that you are able to excel in multiple fields. So consider asking a STEM teacher and also a humanities teacher, whether that's your English teacher or your social studies teacher, your history teacher. It can look really good to show colleges that you're a well-rounded student overall. You also want to look for a teacher that you've had recently. So when I say recently, think of 10th grade and up. Junior year is probably a junior year teacher is probably ideal. It's you can always have really good relationships with your teachers from freshman year, of course, but they probably won't be able to accurately speak to your growth as a person. So the more recent, the better. However, if you had a teacher freshman year and you continue to have that teacher later on, that could be super helpful as well because the teachers will be able to witness in real time what your growth looked like. So while you're thinking about that, here's just some questions to think about. Does your recommender have anecdotes or any stories about you? So like I said before, any specific thing that they could point out and talk about in your letter? And have you shared your um, academic and professional interests with your teachers? It's really, really helpful to get to talk to your teachers outside of class sometimes to be able to um, help them understand what it is you want to get into, and they can offer some really valuable insight on it. So it can be really helpful for them to get stuff to write about in your letter. Um, and the good news is that teachers already know the drill. You're probably not going to be the first person to ask, and you probably won't be the last. So they've already done this. They've already written letters of rec as their time as a teacher. But it is still good to ask in advance just so you can get ahead of the curve. So try to aim to ask by the end of your junior year, and share information with them. Talk about your extracurriculars with them. Share your brag sheet with them. It just gives them more content to be able to write about. And Amanda just shared a link in the chat about letters of recommendation tip sheet. And what it is just basically a cheat sheet for how you should get to know your recommender, who should you ask, and just a bunch of other questions that you can reflect on when asking teachers to write your letter of recommendation. So yeah, finally, your school counselors or your guidance counselor or your college counselor is required to write you a letter of recommendation. And so this might sound a little silly, but counselor's letter of recommendations are different from these recommendations that we just talked about, your teacher's recommendations. And so the whole point of counselor's recommendations is to contextualize you to your colleges. So they'll be mentioning things like your class rank, if you took any honors classes, how many honors classes or AP classes your school offered, and how many of those did you take? They look at your engagements in the school, like extracurriculars. So their letter of recommendation is just a way to give colleges more context about how you've been taking advantage of your school's resources. Other than that, they help you in making college recommendations. So drafting a college list or recommending you to certain colleges. They're really helpful because they've already went through this process and they could already know some of the admissions officers at colleges, so it's a great connection for you. I remember for me, when I was a senior and I had just gotten rejected from my early decision school, I didn't feel confident in all of the college choices that I had. So I went to speak to my college counselor, and she recommended the University of Rochester's dual degree program for me, and that's what I ended up applying and ultimately committing to. So they're helpful guides. Make sure to take advantage of them. And the most important thing is that they serve as basically the middle person between you and the colleges. So they are almost always the only person that is sending stuff to your colleges. You're not going to be sending your colleges your transcripts directly. It's all going to go through your college counselor. So they're going to be sending your transcripts, your letters of recommendations, and all other official documents. So you're going to be working with them very closely to get your applications in. Yeah, so overall, the main goal is to find at least 2 teachers to write a recommendation for you and start thinking about building those relationships with your counselors to get the ball rolling on college applications. So the third thing to leverage is the SAT/ACT. So this is our last section right now, and we're going to be talking about whether you guys should be taking the SAT and ACT, and if so, which tests should you be taking? So there have been some changes in recent years. Many colleges have changed their test taking policies. So because of COVID, a lot of schools went test optional. And because it's been a while since COVID, a lot of schools are changing their testing policies. Some are choosing to keep the test optional policies, while others are choosing to go back to requiring standardized testing. So it's super important to just double check on your college's websites whether or not they are requiring the SAT. So depending on where you're interested in applying, some schools require it. Some schools are test optional, so you could choose whether or not to submit it. And then finally, some schools are test blind, where they're not allowed to consider the SAT or ACT at all. And just some updates to the test. They both are offering digital versions now, and they both do have accommodations if you do have any learning accommodations. Also, I will say, if you community colleges and most 2-year colleges don't require it at all. So if that is something that you are interested in, make sure you look into that as well. And if you do need any help, like deciding whether or looking at whether or not a college is test optional, we're going to have an activity and just walk you guys through how you can check that. So before we do that, we're going to be talking about the 4 questions that you should be asking yourself for deciding whether or not you should take the SAT or ACT. So question 1, do the schools that you want to apply to require the SAT or ACT? Question 2, how does your application compare to those who are typically accepted at those schools? Question 3, do the scholarships at these schools or other scholarships you want to apply to require the SAT/ACT? And question 4, if you do choose to take the standardized tests, which ones is a better fit for you? So to help you guys make the decision on whether you guys should take it, we're going to break down these sections one by one. And before we do that, I do want to say it can seem like a super big and scary thing to take these tests. But you guys will have the chance to break it down and see if it's worth taking the test. And just know that if you're in the boat where you've wanted to take the test, but don't feel like you have enough resources, like your school doesn't offer SAT prep, we have a slide that we're going to talk about with some more resources for if you do choose to take standardized testing. So question number 1, it's going to be an activity. Do the schools you want to apply to require it? So for this activity, you guys are going to Google 2026 SAT policies at Insert College for 3 to 4 of the schools that you're interested in, or you can check out this test optional list of all the test op colleges in the US. And then after that, we'll give you guys a couple minutes to do that. You can chat in what you find, whether or not the college is test op, test required, or test blind. I was looking at Penn State and I found that Penn State is not it is test optional. However, if you're applying to like accelerated programs like accelerated pre-med or bachelor's and master's program, they do require the SAT and ACT. That was pretty interesting. Maria found that UMaine recommends but doesn't require SAT, and similar to Peel, but Harvard and Yale require the test scores. Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of Ivy League schools are going back to requiring standardized testing. So if you are interested in Ivies, something to keep in mind. Someone private messaged me and said that they found that Stony Brook is test optional. Yeah, I actually think most public universities in New York State, I believe, are test optional. BU and UPenn is test optional until 2028, just 2029. Yeah. A lot of the schools are kind of in an awkward period where they're like phasing out of test being test optional and going back to like test requiring it. So you guys might be like one of the last few classes to see like this transition of like being test optional and test required. Yeah. I think my school is test optional as well. A lot of schools have stuck with being test optional. Megan says UC schools are test free. Yeah, I actually did some research on that yesterday and I found that like UCLA and other UC schools aren't allowed to consider the test at all, which was super interesting. Yeah, thank you guys for sharing your findings. We're going to move on to the next question. Question two, how does your application compare to those who are typically accepted at the schools on your list? So here are the things that you want to consider. You want to consider your grades, AP slash honors or courses taken, and extracurriculars. So most colleges will have something called like admissions, like statistics and admissions profiles of their incoming classes. So they'll put in the GPA, like they'll get the average GPAs of students that are incoming from high school. So what you guys are going to do is go on Google and search up the average GPA of those schools that you already researched, and see what the average GPA is for all the schools that you already looked at. Some responses in the chat already, so feel free to chat in what you found. I went ahead and looked at Penn State again to see their average GPA, and I found that it's like a 3.6 to a 3.8. Maria found that UMaine has a 3.49. Beale doesn't publish GPA scores for admitted students, and Harvard 3.9 to 4. Yale 4.13 to 4.18. UCLA and UCP have average of 4.0 unweighted. UCI 3.9 unweighted. That's a long name. CSUDH has an average of 3.3 unweighted. Yeah. So it looks like you guys were able to do some good research. So in summary, what I want you guys to get out of this activity is that GPA is just one piece of your application. So if you search this up and you are feeling either that your GPA is a bit under, just keep in mind that if you do submit your SAT and get a strong SAT score, it could be a really helpful way to leverage your GPA and give college admissions another angle to look at you academically. And if you choose not to submit SAT and ACT, just remember that colleges do pay a little bit more attention to your grades, APs, and honors, and extracurricular in that case. So, question number 3 is, do the scholarships at the schools on your list or other scholarships you want to apply to require the SAT or ACT? So, while it is true that some schools don't require the SAT for admissions, some programs for financial aid and scholarships will require the SAT if you're looking to get an academic or merit-based scholarship. So the best way to find this out is one, Googling it, or specifically reaching out to colleges and asking them, hey, could I lose out on scholarship or financial aid money if I do choose to apply test optional? So if you need any help on this at all, feel free to reach out and we can look at some colleges for you guys to reach out to financial aid counselors and just directly reach out to them and ask about their SAT policy. So if you've decided that you want to take standardized testing, you have to ask yourself which test is a better test for you. So we have the SAT and the ACT. So I'll give you guys just a couple of minutes to read over the slide, and it's just a basic breakdown of the tests and the key differences between the tests. I chose to take the SAT just because my school was offering it, and it was more accessible for me to take it. Allison, that's a good question. If your school doesn't offer AP classes, the colleges will know that. That's also one of the really helpful things about like your guidance counselor's letter of recommendation. The guidance counselor will say that your school doesn't offer any AP classes. But if your school does offer honors classes and you've taken those honor classes, like your guidance counselor is going to note that to the college. So don't worry. All right, so hopefully you guys have taken some time to look over this slide. Let me know at all if you guys need any more help to decide which test to take. And I also do want to let you guys know that if your school doesn't offer test waivers to take the test for free, Let's Get Ready does offer them. So just reach out to your coaches and ask for a fee waiver, and you'll be able to take you get 2 fee waivers to take these tests for free. So if you do choose you want to take it, here's how to effectively prepare for it. So there's an SAT boot camp offered by Schoolhouse World, where you get to learn from a certified peer tutor. You get to practice full-length tests and get personalized supports, and like basically study plans based off of the tests you take. And then you also get test taking tips. And if you are someone that utilizes self-study more, there's a bunch of great self-study options for the SAT and ACT. So there's College Board practice tests, and College Board officially administers the test. So they are a super helpful resource. They have the Blue Book app as well. There's Khan Academy and Ivy Global, both free resources that are super helpful. To this day, I use Khan Academy for LSAT prep. And by utilizing these resources, if you do choose to take the test, they're great ways to maximize your score. So plan to take the test more than one time, take practice tests, but also if you take it more than once, you've been studying, your score is almost guaranteed to go up because you get more familiarized with the test. So here are just some key takeaways. If test taking is a strength of yours, you can use it as a great way to strengthen your application. If it's not, it'll take time to prepare, but it is still 100% doable. If you want to take the test and if you want to do good, as long as you're utilizing these resources and putting in the effort to study for the test, I have no doubt that each and every one of you will be able to get a good grade on the SAT. And just remember that you don't have to submit scores at all. If you feel like it's not worth the time to take either one of these tests, just know that you don't have to. But if you do choose not to submit, there will be a higher emphasis on other parts of your application. So the admissions officers are going to be looking more closely at your GPA, your personal statement, and your extracurriculars, and your letters of recommendation, of course. So if you do choose not to take it, just make sure you're putting extra time and attention into the rest of your application. So should you take the SAT/ACT? If any of the schools or scholarships you want to apply to require it, you should take the test. If it would strengthen your application in important ways, it's a good idea to take the test. If you're not sure, you should probably also take the test. It is completely free to take if you're taking advantage of your fee waivers. Can't hurt you, even if you take it and decide that you didn't do so well, but you want to do better. You have all these resources we just talked about to maximize your score, but if you're still unsure, it can't hurt you to take it. It could be helpful for you to take it. So definitely don't be completely intimidated. Remember, it can't hurt you. If you do choose to take it and you're not satisfied and you don't want to study for the SAT, that is completely fine. You don't have to submit it, but you should try to take it just to see how you do. So for our last section, we're going to be talking about setting individual goals related to what you want to accomplish. So if at any point in the workshop while we were talking, you were like, wow, I really want to work on getting better relationships with my recommenders or improving my GPA, we're just going to be talking about ways to set goals to be able to achieve those goals in a timely manner. So the way to do that is by setting SMART goals. You want goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So does anyone have any questions about what any of this means before we move on to our next activity? So for my SMART goal that I made for myself is that I want to study 15 minutes every single day for the LSAT until I can get a 5-point increase in my grade by the end of the semester. So I try to make my goal as specific as possible, measurable by 5-point increase, and also time bound by saying by the end of the semester. So that's just something you want to keep in mind. So for this activity, I want you guys to think about what is something you want to do to strengthen your application this week, this month, and this year. So this could be related to extracurriculars, recommendation letters, getting your test scores up, or just your relationships with your teachers and school counselors. You don't have to share your goals right now with the group, but your coaches are going to be following up with you guys one-on-one next week to hear about what you came up with and help you guys achieve your goals. So take 3 minutes to write down one specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goal for each of the time periods above. All right, so that is about 3 minutes. So hopefully you guys had the chance to come up with something. If you feel stuck at all, feel free to ask coaches for help. But yeah, just know that as long as you've made your goals smart, I believe that every single one of you can get to whatever your goal is. I think you can achieve it as long as you just put the effort in. It's completely doable. So that brings us to the end of our workshop. So today we talked about some of the things you should be doing in the next few weeks and the rest of your junior year to get ready for college applications. By taking these steps, it's going to strengthen your profile and will likely result in colleges making a better impression, getting a better impression on you. It's also going to decrease your stress a lot next year when you actually go to fill out applications. By doing work right now, you're going to do less work later on, which is you're going to give yourself a pat on the back for that. Senior year gets super stressful during the fall when you don't have everything figured out and you're just trying to get everything in. So definitely by taking time to just maximize stress and getting started early, you won't have to deal with all the stress you would have dealt with if you just kept putting stuff off. So I hope you guys were able to learn something from our workshop. Feel free to fill out the feedback forms that we have. They help us make workshops better. Every year we always make workshops better based off of what students shared with us last year. So don't worry, don't be scared to fill them out. So we do have some time for questions. I know we talked about a lot today, so I have set aside some time for questions. So feel free to chat it or text me privately or come off mute, whatever you need to do. No question is a silly question. And I can always go back into the slides as well. And if you don't have any questions, feel free to hop off, but I'll be staying around for any questions. Thank you, everybody, for coming.